This is the Dollemore Daily, and I'm Jesse Dollemore. Presidents are not kings, and the plaintiff is not the president. Those are words you're probably going to be hearing a lot today. They come from Judge Tanya Chutkan, who ruled, as I've been screaming about for months, that Donald Trump does indeed not possess executive privilege, that executive privilege is for the current sitting president of the United States, who just so happens to be Joe Biden, and that all of the almost 800 documents that Donald Trump wants to keep secret related to the insurrection, the failed coup attempt, the failed overthrow, yet attempted overthrow of the United States government, and the attempted overturning of a free and fair American election, that those documents can be released to the January 6th House Select Committee investigating the January 6th insurrection. Big news. Now, of course, this is going to be appealed to the U.S. District Court of Appeals in Washington, D.C. I believe it is I don't know which circuit it is. And then, if it fails there, if Donald Trump fails there, it will very likely be appealed to the Supreme Court, and they will either agree with the ruling of the circuit court, which is going to be that Donald Trump does not possess executive privilege and that Joe Biden can release the documents. But all of this is in an attempt, and I'll probably get to it here in the article. All of this is an attempt by Donald Trump and Republicans to slow the pace of the investigation, to drag this into the midterms, to make it a political football, to make it a substantive issue that is going to invigorate, it's going to animate the voters in 2022. They hope to vote for Republicans and take back the majority. Because if Republicans take back the majority, this committee is no more. Very big things are at stake. I'm going to read a little bit from this Washington Post article. Trump White House records can be turned over to House January 6th Investigative Committee. Judge rules. A federal judge in Washington ruled late Tuesday that hundreds of pages of Trump White House records can be turned over to a congressional committee investigating the January 6th attack on the United States Capitol, despite the former president's objections. He is the ex-president, a goof who does not possess executive privilege. The decision by U.S. District Judge Tanya S. Chutkan clears the way for the release of the government records requested by Congress beginning Friday. Attorneys for former President Donald Trump immediately appealed and moved to bar release of the documents by the National Archives, pending a ruling by the U.S. Circuit Court of Appeals for the District of Columbia Circuit. Like I said, that will very likely, almost inevitably, be the same ruling as Judge Chutkan. Executive privilege is when our founders formed what we have today as a country and the government and how it would operate and wrote the Constitution. There were what they believed to be safeguards built in, checks and balances. The Congress has the power to pass bills, yet the president has the power constitutionally to sign them or to veto them. And if the president is to sign or is to veto, then it goes back to the Congress. And if they vote on it with an even larger majority, then they can override the veto. There's all of these things built in of checks and balances. And executive privilege is also one of these checks and balances, where the executive branch, through the president, the current sitting president, can rebuff the investigative efforts of Congress. Their check on the president also has a check. And where it is interesting here is that it's so obvious. Why would a former president, an ex-president in the case of Donald Trump, why would he have executive privilege as a check and balance over the Congress? It doesn't make any sense whatsoever. Donald Trump isn't an active part of government. He lives in Florida. He's an ex-clown, a current clown ex-president. He does not possess, he does not enjoy executive privilege. Again, presidents are not kings, and the plaintiff is not the president. Continuing here, the House panel and the Justice Department contend that discovering and coming to terms with the causes underlying the January 6th attack is a matter of unsurpassed public importance because such information relates to our core democratic institutions and the public's confidence in them. Chutkan wrote in a 39-page opinion, "The court agrees," she said. The court agrees. She also wrote, "The court holds that the public interest lies in permitting, not enjoining, the combined will of the legislative and executive branches to study the events that led to and occurred on January 6th and to consider legislation to prevent such events from ever occurring again," the judge wrote. The same thing that I have been talking about for months. The same thing that legal scholars and experts on the matter have been saying for months. And notably, the same thing that Donald Trump and his cadre of goof attorneys have been arguing against. That and even members of Congress on the other side. That the Congress doesn't have the power to investigate. Yes. Yes, they do. House Democrats are probing Trump's communications and activities leading up to and during the riot by a mob of his supporters that contributed to at least 5 deaths and forced the evacuation of Congress as it met to certify the 2020 presidential election results. Legal analysts say the fight is expected to continue well into the next year, with a delay potentially working to Trump's advantage if the courts have not settled the question before the November 22 midterm elections, when Republicans hope to unseat this Democratic Congress. In a statement on Twitter, Trump's dum-dum spokesman, Taylor Budowich, said the legal struggle is just beginning. Quote, "The battle to defend executive privilege for presidents past, present, and future was destined to be decided by the appellate courts," Budowich wrote in a statement. President Trump remains committed to defending the Constitution and the office of the presidency and will be seeing this process through. That is nonsense, as I have just explained. In her ruling, however, Chutkan noted that the Biden administration had approved the release of his predecessor's White House records. "There can only be one president at a time," the judge wrote, holding that Trump's assertion of executive privilege is outweighed by President Biden's decision not to uphold the privilege. Presidents are not kings, and plaintiff is not president, Chutkan said, echoing language used by fellow jurist Ketanji B. Jackson in 2019 in rejecting Trump's request to toss out a congressional subpoena seeking testimony by his White House counsel Donald McGahn. He, Donald Trump, they're referring to, retains the right to assert that his records are privileged, but the incumbent president is not constitutionally obliged to honor that assertion, Chutkan wrote. This is going to end up this way. This ruling will stand. However, again, this plays out because of the timing of this, dragging this into the midterms, obstructing justice. Chutkan added that she would not second-guess that decision by undertaking a document-by-document review as requested by Trump's attorneys, saying that would require the court to engage in a function reserved squarely for the executive. And what she means by that is she's not going to muddle, she is not going to mess with the separation of powers. These are constitutional matters, and she has ruled correctly in this. The ruling, if upheld, could greatly speed the work of the committee of nearly 800 pages of documents that Trump has sought withheld. Many such as White House visitors and call logs are unavailable elsewhere. These are documents that don't reside, they don't exist inside of some White House database, computer system. They are in the National Archives. And the only way to get them is through release from the National Archives And Donald Trump is trying to prevent that. There, two things are happening here. Donald Trump is trying to cover his ass because there are serious items contained within those documents that otherwise he wouldn't mind if they were released. And secondly, he's trying to slow the pace of the investigation. What do you think, though? It is a big day. This is monumental. So take a break, take a breath, celebrate a little bit, but the fight continues. What do you think, though? I'd love to know. You can call, leave me a brief voicemail, 714-576-4054. You can email me, daily@dollemore.com. Thanks for your time, your attention, your engagement with my content. I love and appreciate you very much. Why don't you follow me on social media? That is sometimes a good time. You can witness the trolling in real time. And if I bring you value, please consider supporting my work here on the platform for as little as $2 a month. You can help produce what I do. $1.99. You can click the join button below this video, become a channel member, or you can head on over to patreon.com/IDoubtIt podcast. All those are fantastic ways to help support my work. Or if you want to buy a t-shirt, there's a little, there should be a bar underneath here with t-shirt options. Dollemore Daily. I still sell the Treason 45 shirts. Those are still selling. That's heartwarming, I guess. Anyway, I love you guys. I'll see you next time. Until then, be genuine. Take care of one another.